My name is Lou Ellen Young Silver, a.k.a. Whitefeather. Born and raised in Stafford and lifelong resident. Well, as my genealogy pursuits led me to find, I found about 3 great-grandmothers that were living in Stafford County in the early 1600s. When we found some names that had only one name, a given name for a grandmother, and that name was Antonio, Keziah Aurora, and Keoki. Said, you know, how come these women didn't have any double names or didn't have any married names particularly? We came across one deed and a will from a Mr. Monteith out there in White Oak area that said his wife had brought land to their marriage. It was her dower right to the land given to her by her father, Chief Japasaws. And we said, aha, that's a Native American piece of land. And that would make us believe some of those history stories our father said to us when we were children. Our mother on Sundays would say, Dad, take those children out in the woods and tell them some history or so. Keep them out of the house. If I'm to fix Sunday dinner, get these children out in the woods. And Dad would say, this is where the Indians lived. You will find arrow points and you will find hatchets and tools that the Indians used. We said, Dad, you dreamed that. We don't find any. Oh yes, if you look closely you will find some. So as we got older and as we learned to look under the leaves and as he would plow the ground to do his farming, we found out that we could find some arrow points and some different tools. It was quite interesting to us to, as young children, think that our dad was just telling us history tales that were not real or not pertinent to our family. But as I said, as we got older and people in school systems, especially I remember in high school, when they would say, you people from White Oak are not like anybody else in the county. You all have a mind all your own and you act different and you look different or something. I said, no, we don't. We don't look different and we don't act different. We can run faster than you can run and we can do more pull-ups than you can do. And there are many things that we do quite well. I think we knew we were a little different from the ordinary students in Stafford County, perhaps, or the larger number of students. But we didn't feel different. And even though some of our childhood friends would say, let's go down to the creek. Let's play hide and seek, and you get behind that tree and I'll get behind this tree. And our dad used to tease us, if you're going to misbehave, you're going to lose your wampum. And we thought, why does he say these words? Where did he learn these words about wampum? And when he would want us to be out in the woods learning some history lessons, he would say, well, now let's see if you can identify a chinkapin tree or bush. And see if you can identify a hickory tree or an oak tree. See if you can tell the difference between an acorn and a hickory nut or a little chinkapin nut, which is what the Indians would eat, he said. They ate nuts and berries and seeds of different kinds. We said, Dad, how did you know that? He said, well, our family has always lived close to the water. And our family knows what are good foods to eat from the woods and which ones are poisonous to eat from the woods. All right, tell us which ones are poisonous. So we would learn what mushrooms not to pick up and bite into or so. And which tree roots would make good tea, like sassafras tea or so. It was always a learning lesson. The outdoors was our classroom. You know, I guess if I hadn't had a cousin to talk to, Mr. Bill Deo had been concerned and interested and curious enough in his youth to also listen to his grandmother and his aunt, who had been born and raised in our community, when he said, you know, I think we have some Native American history. I think those people that live out there in Belle Plains have a different kind of heritage than most people. Of course, we knew a lot of the families that were fishermen at the time. We call them watermen now, but we called them farmers, hunters, and fishermen. And that's the way they made their living. Their families lived off of the food that they caught either in the water or in their hair gums. And the fathers were hunters to shoot deer or rabbits or squirrels, and we ate many squirrel pies and rabbit pies and anything that our brothers could go out and shoot or bring home, and our mother could cook them and put vegetables with them. We knew that not all children ate rabbit pie and squirrel pie and venison burgers and things like that. But hey, it tastes good to us. And our dad would say, well, that's the way the Indians would survive. They would get the little animals from the forest. But he said, you know, they never took more than they used. They never wasted their food supply. So he taught us to be good conservationists and did not want us to throw away a half of a piece of notebook paper. He would say, if you use half of it, then you either tear off the bottom half or you take a pair of scissors and cut off the bottom half, and you keep the clean piece for another day and another note and another assignment. And if your mother has used a glass jar, she doesn't throw it away. We wash it out and save it for another day. So I guess we really did not realize, the older siblings in my family did not know that we were going through a period of rationing when World War II came along. But my sister and I did often talk about the times when we had no more butter at our house, and our mother would bring us a package of white, some kind of material that we were going to eat for margarine, she called it, and it had a little button of red dye in the middle of it. So we had to sit down and with our thumbs or so punch that little red button of dye and then massage it all out into the sides of that cellophane package. And that was our new butter that got put on the table in forms of slices or so. And we said, this doesn't taste as good as butter. And our mother said, no, but you will learn to accept the taste. So we realized that there were ways to do conservation and be kind to our environment and be kind to ourselves and follow, I suppose, what our ancestors has taught us. You make do with what's available. You use the rationing tickets that you are given. Or, in some instances, if you had an overabundance of gasoline tickets, you could trade those for either sugar tickets or maybe a pair of shoes. Families were given only so many shoe rationing tickets. And we made it through those World War II years and didn't know we had been through a time of rationing. But I think we relied a lot on our heritage and conservation and the attitudes of our mother and father of, we can make it. If we just plant our seeds in the springtime, preserve our vegetables and fruits in the summer seasons, and in the fall, the harvest of the fall, we're going to get through the winters fine. I remember we would go out in the field sometime and pick the cressy greens. Our grandmother would have some things down in the ground that I guess we called it. We said, out next to the ice house, our grandmother has bushels of potatoes out there in the ground. And she has some turnips or cabbage or something. All you have to do is go out there and look in the ice house, and there's all kinds of food. You don't even have to go to the grocery store. Well, little did we know they had worked very hard, to get all those foods out there in the ground so they wouldn't freeze up on top of the ground.